Well, it's 11 a.m., so let's go ahead and get started. Let's welcome everyone. I want to wish everyone a really pleasant good morning to you, wherever you may be. I'm Julie Arthur, CASH Chair and Executive Director of Facilities Planning for Palm Springs Unified School District. First and foremost, I hope that you and your families are all safe and well during you with weekly webinars to ensure that we are able to serve our members with the latest and best information to help school districts, county offices of education support clean, healthy, safe facilities for our students, parents, and community and teachers when they return to school. Last week, CASH presented alternative capital funding availability options and planning during the coronavirus with polling data, which was presented by Rick Scars from FM3 Research regarding the voter surveys on Prop 13. Updates were also given on the status of the state bond funds, CFDs, bridge financing, and other questions asked during this webinar. Please visit CASH website. Click on the COVID-19 link to see this info and more links to access pertinent information on COVID-19. So today is the fifth in a series of webinars, and it discusses construction climate under the governor's orders, subs, material availability, and also discuss how school districts are communicating with parents and the community. With me on screen this morning is Jeff Becker, CASH Vice Chair, Fresno County Superintendent of Schools Office. Jeff, how's it going in Fresno this week?
Fresno this week, Julie. We're getting the hang of operating in this new environment. Personally, I've been able to get my construction project moving forward at a good clip again after working through social distancing, so I'm excited about that. We even worked a triple clip again after working through social distancing, so I'm excited about that. We even worked a triple shift over the weekend. So we're doing well, Julie. How is it in Palm Springs?
Palm Springs has been a little trying. The city of Palm Springs, we've got, as I mentioned before, we've got a resolution going to the board Tuesday that basically deems all of our construction projects as essential. But we're moving along. We need some of our solar canopy projects done. We've just started one today here at our district office where we've got solar coming in, and we've got our renovations at our Palm Springs High School really moving along, trying to, again, do everything we can that we typically wouldn't have done with students being there. So we're trying to get the contractors do all the social distancing and all the requirements with face masks and everything, and it seems to be working. We've been really fortunate. So it's going well. We're going to start seeing, we're hitting those, we're going to hit triple digits this weekend, so we'll start seeing things slow down. Slow down just a little bit when it gets that warm out. Hey, I heard there's some exciting news about the 2021 CASH Annual Conference. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you, Julie. We do have big news regarding the 2021 conference. The board has made the decision to go ahead and move the 2021 conference to Palm Springs. So we'll be in your neck of the woods. And the new dates for that are March 1st through 3rd. That's a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we're really excited, again, about being in Palm Springs, and there'll be lots of information coming out as to how you can participate and details as well.
I'll be happy to share with anyone any information they want to know about the Palm Springs area. It's a fun place to be, and so we look forward to welcoming CASH Conference being here for the first time ever.
So thanks, Julie. So why don't I go through a few housekeeping items into today's topic. So first of all, I do know that we're having some echo, so please make sure your lines are muted. They have been muted for you, but please make sure that you keep that way throughout the duration. You can type in your questions into the chat box on the bottom left of the screen. And after each presentation, Dr. Tom Duffy, Julie, and I will ask a few brief questions. And we do have Ian Padilla, our legislative advocate with CASH, monitoring that. And so we can cover additional questions at the end of the broadcast. And finally, we are recording this webinar, and we'll make it available on the CASH website for future viewing. And now, please allow me to introduce our panelists for today. We're joined by Ty Dorward, a member of the CASH Legislative Advisory Committee with the firm of Best and Krieger. We also have Don Ulrich, our CASH Immediate Past Chair from Clovis Unified School District. Matt Gates with Erickson Hall Construction Company, and Nick McFadden with ProCraft Construction. So let me turn it over first to Ty. I believe that you're first up on our agenda. So Ty, can you update us on the governor's executive order and where we're at with that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff and Julie. Can everybody hear me okay? I think these webinars that CASH has been putting on have been really great. I have participated in at least the last 3, and I think the practical information that is shared is really valuable, even to me as a lawyer who isn't necessarily as involved in the construction administration items that we're going to talk about today. So I wanted to try to keep my slides and my time not only brief but very practical, and then certainly be able to stay around for any questions or answer any questions as we get through it. But I know that Don and Nick and Matt have some really valuable factual information that I want to get to and make sure they have enough time. So with that being said, I did want to cover, based on our outline and our run through, sort of where we stand in this constantly evolving environment with the different governors that all of the districts are dealing with. We've got districts that are spread across the map in California, and counties that are frankly across the map in terms of what they're asking for. And then I know, to Julie's point, based on what she had said in the prepping for this webinar, even cities are issuing directives that may these overlapping jurisdiction issues are complete legal fodder for lawyers to decide which law prevails over another. But I think it's important to focus on impacts to districts, and we'll try to do that as I move through these briefly. The executive order that the governor issued here on the first slide, it still exists. It's still the same order that applies, that ordered all Californians to stay at home, other than the critical infrastructure. And we keep using those buzzwords. Those are in both the governor's orders. They're in the various county orders. They're also mentioned in the federal guidance, the CISA guidance that has been discussed at the other webinars. Right after the executive order was the list of the essential infrastructure workers. This document is a PDF document that still exists on the governor's website. It is also still cited and or attached to many of the county orders, and it contains the most frequently cited from our side of the legal verbiage about construction workers who support the operation, maintenance, and ongoing construction of construction projects, including, of course, housing construction, and then also including another key issue that I know Matt and Nick are going to talk about, which is the impact on construction material suppliers. And these orders still remain in place. The vast majority of construction projects that we are involved in or have been asked to work on in this time period are moving forward. I don't believe that really any school districts at all are voluntarily commencing projects. All of your districts at all are voluntarily commencing projects. All of your projects are still, to my mind, I'd echo what I think one of the speakers said in one of the early webinars. There's a very good legal argument that essentially every single project is essential. Even a solar project essentially is essential. Even a solar project has been discussed around our office. A solar project that frees up general fund dollars based on the energy savings could obviously have a huge impact on the district's general fund and its ability to fund educational programs. So would undoubtedly enhance your general fund issues. So that being said, what has happened since? The county health orders have continuously been updated. Literally, some of them have been updated every couple days. They are all over the map as it comes. None of the main verbiage with regard to essential workers in construction has really changed, other than did I skip too far forward? No. Okay. Other than a lot of things that have happened, I'll get to in a second, is we've had these implementation of social distancing requirements and face mask coverings, and then park usage and things like that are in this constantly evolving environment are changing, and unfortunately, as what we've seen roll out, and we've been trying to track as a firm, is that some of the language sometimes is coordinated between different counties, but in a lot of instances, each county health department is issuing its own order, and each order varies a little bit from the next, even if it largely is the same topic. So how did that roll out? There we go. So the timeline, how did it roll out? I think that what was mentioned in the past CASH webinars is you had the original governor's order in like that last week of March time period. March 31st and April 1st, you had Bay Area counties and some other counties amending their orders to include the essential findings requirements, essentially putting it on local governmental agencies to make additional findings. Currently, really only the Bay Area counties and a few others have that specific verbiage in it. Most other counties still have more general verbiage that tracks to the basic language that's in the general orders. First week or so of April, seeing in face masks and other directives about operations of restaurants, parks, etc. Following up April 10th to now, additional what I would call or characterize as more clarifications have occurred, not really focused on construction as much as many of these other issues. I did do interesting to report, it appears that in Riverside County, you folks are going to get to go back to golf courses with certain social distancing requirements. That is ahead of other counties, and other counties are going to be dealing with beaches and parks as we move forward. What have we done from the legal perspective? I've alluded to it. Even if your county has not required an essential designation in order for your projects to continue, many districts are just going ahead and doing that as a matter of course. I know the San Diego County Office of Ed even circulated a sample resolution to do that to all of the districts in San Diego County, something that your district can consider, and certainly something that might have some value to your district if you were dealing with one of the issues that Julie described relative to city regulation and potential city overstepping of their jurisdiction. I do think, from a legal perspective, what's popped up for us in the last few weeks, we've seen these same issues related to force majeure notices and delay notices. We've seen the issues of the contractors implementing and working on worker safety procedures and plans. How do we address a COVID-19 case on the job site? And how do we do cleaning and get a job site potentially shut down if it has to be shut down and then reopened? I know Nick and Matt will be able to offer a lot more granular detail on that than I can, but generally I'd say I think that those kinds of things are working well. And then we certainly are seeing the bid process and contract process issues that have to be adjusted for social distancing and face masks et cetera, with regard to bid walks and opening, to amend bid documents to make sure that those items are addressed in bid documents in a fair and impartial way so that you can continue to proceed with your procurements. Next slide I have is, so the other emerging issues that have just popped up, let's say, are the unintended consequences of the environment. Certainly, Julie's issue highlights, what can the city do on a district construction project? What can't they do? The general, maxims of the law are that you are a local subdivision of the state. School districts are not a division of the state. School districts are not generally subject to regulation of design and construction of school projects. That's the purview of DSA and the state. So and oftentimes in the past, with regard to certain permits and things like that, we've had to assist districts in staking out. With regard to certain permits and things like that, we've had to assist districts in staking out that position politely, that you are an independent state agency operating under an independent jurisdiction under the law. But we do know that cities and certain city staffers and potentially even certain city council people might think that they have more control than they really do. But I think, as with the contract issues and all of these things, I think one of the buzzwords that was used in the past webinars, help districts do in this environment. But certainly nothing is requiring you to cede jurisdiction or cede the ability to move forward with your projects or your operations. And if you need to politely and collaboratively remind cities of that, that's be able to help you sort through. Then moving on from that, I think the big upswing, I've had 4 of them just in the last 2 weeks here, are bid protests and issues arising with a lot of competition, and issues arising with a lot of competition starting to flood back into our market, the public agency market, and the school district market, from folks who are either inexperienced bidders or haven't done public works or haven't bid on your school district's bond program works or haven't bid on your school district's bond program, given that every district has its set of bid documents and its set of requirements for forms and things like that. So I think that that's certainly a current topic. I know Nick and Matt will talk a lot more about what they're seeing of contractors, but I do think that from a legal perspective, we're trying to assist districts in navigating this process and get them through the bid protest responses, and in a legal manner and a defensible manner, so that you can obviously then move forward with your projects and get contracts awarded, since a lot of the stuff happening right now, work that needs to be done before kids come back. I think really those are the key issues from the legal perspective. I think I just reemphasize, as far as all of these COVID issues and the issues you're going to get from your contractors, be reasonable, work with your legal counsel to respond to change order requests, delay notices, any of those things. They still do need to go through your normal change order process, your normal contract process. I think the other pitch for this would be, as we start to talk about, and I know Nick and Matt will be covering the delays and the actual supplier issues, another pitch for all this would be from a legal counsel perspective, if you haven't supplier issues. Another pitch for all this would be from a legal counsel perspective, if you haven't looked at your construction contract documents and you don't have a really good knowledge of what your change order provisions are, what your provisions are for allowing non-compensable delay versus compensable delay, your construction contract should really have those requirements locked down very tightly. None of that is really prescribed by law, but certainly something public agencies can lock down fairly tight in their standard boilerplate hard bid construction documents. And I think with that,
Okay, I think I'm on. Want to make sure if people can't hear me, one of the moderators could let me know, because I know there was some sound problems earlier. If we can go to the first, and we're a suburban rural district just outside of Fresno, and really a bedroom community of Fresno that has grown over the decades into quite a large district. We're 43,000 students, almost 50 schools, with 5 comprehensive high schools. And what I'm going to do today is just try to give you, from a facility perspective, the little bigger perspective of the whole, a big district, and how we're communicating with our community during this pandemic. Pandemic and all the effects it has on schools, which are obviously great. To just give you that perspective of what happens in a relatively large district, and kind of give you some context for what you're dealing with in the facilities world. So let's go to that, my first slide, and I can kind of start with the philosophical approach we took to communication. Now back to the previous slide. I need to go to the previous slide. There we go, off this, because it's unprecedented, right, for our community and the 43,000 kids and all those families. And the big message we wanted to send is that first bullet. And we came up with this, is that the school doors may be closed, but Clovis Unified School District is open for business and student learning. And that was really important to us, that our community understood that we're not shutting down this school district, and learning is too important, education is too important. It's an essential process we need to continue with. And we felt especially as we looked out in the future, and knew that many of our parents and community members would be losing their jobs, would be on limited incomes, would be on unemployment, et cetera. We didn't, and the fact that public school employees are being fully paid. We didn't want to, that public school employees are being fully paid. We wanted to show them that we're earning our paycheck, basically. Felt like that was really important from a philosophical base and a trust base in our school district. We wanted to follow that with, a lot of districts, communicated in a way, I think, that we could continue with new student learning and the curriculum that was supposed to be delivered during this time frame. So we were able to do that for the most part. So we wanted to communicate that aspect too. And then a very important thing in any school district, free and reduced lunch. So we have almost half our families that are in some form of poverty, and we wanted to make sure that they had access to technology. So we immediately worked on communicating that we had laptops available, and we had hotspots available that are really just finished getting out this week for students. That's the technology infrastructure. And then probably the most important foundation of this and continued education is that our expectation was that every teacher would connect personally with each of their students, either through phone or email, and that was could be challenging for a secondary teacher that might have, upwards of 150 to even 200 students, that they're working with on a regular basis. So that was a challenge, but we felt like our teachers could do that. And we've certainly been able to do that. So that's the philosophical base we tried to set, just from a community perspective of how we were dealing with this, closing our doors, but keeping the student learning functioning at the highest level possible. Part of this, because of the situation of, not knowing, the exact details of what a student might be dealing with at home, with families in poverty or families in crisis, which there are many of, as you know, in all of America. And then especially with this pandemic, with their parents and their work and crisis situations at home. So we really wanted to make sure we communicated a sense of grace and care, more so than ever before. education is always about grace and care, but we really wanted to emphasize that. And so we started our superintendent doing a video message twice per week. Back our first week, March 13th was when we were first closed, and we kept doing that. And she does a great job of we've kept doing that. And she does a great job of communicating care and grace, and really then identifying and communicating our teachers and our support staff who are going above and beyond their expectations. And so she would highlight each week, a teacher that, had a particularly impressive way to connect with kids. Whether that be a chemistry teacher that, had this really intricate way of communicating through Zoom, and her website, the chemistry experiment, going above and beyond to make sure that learning is as robust as we can make it. And then, of course, the big thing that is emotional and challenging, but, some heroes out there is, as you might know, food service was one of those essential elements that the governor directed that we continue to do, because, as the federal government funds breakfast and lunch for many of our students that are in poverty. And he directed us to continue to serve that food. And that was especially challenging with to do that in the delivery method or a pickup method pickup method at various school sites. And that meant our food service employees had to be essentially kind of on the front line. And you couldn't really hand out boxes of food or lunches and breakfasts without violating some social distancing. And, they just went ahead and did that. And, we've given them masks and taken other precautions the best we can. But we've been celebrating those food service employees in our community, just to thank them for with the governor making that directive that we had to continue food service. So that's some of the piece of communication, too, that's more philosophical about how we're trying to keep moving forward as a school district during these times. You can go to the next one, please. This is just in a back of a school where they had a thoroughfare where the cars can line up. So to help with social distancing, you don't have to get out of their car. And our food service employees and lots of volunteers from our school sites, administrators, teachers are volunteering to help with this process. So if you can go to the next slide with this process. That is superintendent at the window, and that's myself. We felt like the deputy soup and the superintendent being visible for our food service employees is an important message. So we've done this on multiple occasions. Gone out and helped with that food service part. This is a kind of a visible message to our community. Next slide, please. This is an important point, too, I think, for our parents, for our private sector people that are kind of wondering, how can school really happen, and are they really accountable for student learning and the taxes that I pay and during this time. And although we can never say that the instruction we're offering now is at the same level it would be in person, we're going to make it the best we can be, and there is some accountability. So, we've offered lots of anecdotes of teachers, like I mentioned earlier, offering instruction in a real robust way, through our website, through the messages that our superintendent, Dr. O'Farrell, does. We've publicized the number of computers we've handed devices, and I think our computer number is like upwards of 1,700 that we've handed out, and then network devices is around 400 to 500. So we publicize that. We also publicize the number of individual students that have accessed our system, and we have 43,000 of individual students that have accessed our system. And we have 43,000 students, and our number's at 38.5. So, a vast majority of our students at least one time have logged onto our network to access curriculum and instruction, and that's real good. We feel that's a real to access curriculum and instruction, and that's real good. We feel that's a real good number in this time that our kids are accessing the system and our teachers are using it. And that's really an example of we felt like we needed some objective data. If you just go back one slide, we wanted, right, not just subjective, but numbers and accountable, that make us accountable to our community. They really see what we're trying to do. Okay, I think we got one more slide. And then there's some details, that are really important, especially as important to all of our families and our kids, right, is grades. And especially for our secondary kids that, sophomore, juniors, and seniors, but really those sophomores and juniors that are trying to earn entrance requirements and that are very accountable to the UC and CSU system. They have some great concerns about how grades are going to be determined during this time. And you might not know this if you're not on the education side, but, Ed Code gives our teachers really the prerogative to issue grades. It's always been that way and still is. But districts always been that way and still is. But districts many times give parameters about grades that measure the standards we're trying to teach, right? And we've allowed our teachers, especially in this time frame, to have really a lot of authority in how they issue grades, so we can have authority in how they issue grades, so we can have that grace and care if the teacher feels a student is in a situation at home that is maybe not conducive to student learning and they can't be there to help them and it's not being done in person. We're going to give our kids some grace with that. And so that's on how we're going to issue grades. And I think 3 weeks ago, the superintendent reaffirmed that in a video message to our parents. Another big challenge for all of us right now that have high schools is what are we going to do about graduation? That's obviously a mass gathering, June, those activities, there's big awards assemblies that are done for our seniors that earn scholarships, that earn academic awards, that are in our district. We've made a big thing of those, and they're traditional. And there's a lot of, those seniors and families that are waiting for that kind of career and really their whole academic career to earn the right to be at those assemblies and earn those honors. And we're right in the midst of that, trying to figure out, a plan to honor them in some fashion, depending on the restrictions we have, and we're planning for the worst and hoping for the best. But we're looking at some video and get students in to at least be able to walk across the stage and shake hands with the principal or elbow bump the principal, whatever we think is appropriate. Being able to honor the honor grads, on video, and then post that video on the day of graduation. That's just an initial idea of the different kinds of thoughts. 5 o'clock, we have a Facebook Live event that our high school principals are going to hear input from the community, and we're going to make those final decisions on graduation and awards up here in the near future and communicate that with our families. The other important detail that we communicated was food service details. The food would be delivered, and we changed a little bit over time because we wanted to reduce our exposure of our food service employees, and we went to, actually next week we're going to once per week and figured out a way to hand out all of the meals at one time on one day a week to help expedite that process. School facilities construction piece, we have some important projects going on, and so we're trying to communicate to our general community out of our facility office that we're on time, on schedule. Actually, we're able to speed up some of those because of kids not being on campus, which is the good news, and just those because of kids not being on campus, which is the good news, and just communicate that it's full speed ahead. I know that a lot of this webinar today is about that, but we felt we wanted our community to know that this is an essential construction project, and we're going to go ahead with those projects full speed. So next slide. And if I can show this video, I'll just show about 30 seconds of it. It's about a 2-minute video. You'll see our superintendent giving her message I think Monday of this week. You can go ahead and play that, and I'll let you know maybe the first 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Oh. All right. I think you get the gist of it. You know, she's awesome on camera and was able to really, on a weekly basis here, or bi-weekly basis, that was the one we sent to employees that communicate a sense of care and grace and just a message that we're in this with you. And that's been very well received by our community. But we did a video like that for our parents. That was the one that we did to employees. And those are the video example of the videos we're doing twice. The Transparency Open and provide a sense of teamwork and community in a time when people are fearful and they, as they should be. They're concerned about the future and concerned about what's going on with their kids in a very important part of their life. So that's the message we try to deliver in our district, and we hope that can help any other districts in California that are dealing with this. I think one thing we've been working with our county, other districts, bouncing ideas off of each other to help our county, in this case, get through this time in the best fashion possible. County, in this case, get through this time in the best fashion possible. So thank you, and we can go right to the next speaker. I'm assuming we're doing questions at the end. All right.
Let's see. Oh. All right. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm going to talk about costs and labor availability in this market. I'm Vice President for Erickson Hall Construction. Pre-COVID, so six weeks ago, we were in a different environment. Our construction industry was running, we had added 20, from a total industry standpoint, we had added 21 million jobs since the Great Recession, our longest economic expansion in history, going over 10 years. Labor availability was beginning to limit construction starts, as well as extending general contractor as well as the subcontractor availability. And our manufacturing was at or over 100%. We were also holding weekly on-site meetings with our architects, our owners, and as well as our subcontractors. Last year, we were looking at new construction costs in the range of $600 a square foot, with modernizations, depending on light, between $200 and $300 a square foot, with heavy renovations, $390 to $450 a square foot. We were experiencing some wage and margin capacity being maxed, and that was following through all the way up through February. 6 weeks now later, nationwide, we've lost, and the numbers just came out this morning, we're up to 26 million unemployment claims. California has lost roughly 3 million jobs during this time frame. Construction jobs are totaling over 20,000 nationally. They're totaling over 20,000 nationally. They're mostly, vast majority of them are private and commercial. And the private and commercial construction starts are down 17% in the last 6 weeks. Global economy is estimated to shrink by 0.1% this year. To give you an idea, the Great Recession of 08, 09, the global economy shrunk by 0.1%. So this is a steep shock to the system that everyone's estimating that will. National GDP, gross domestic product, we're looking at a shrinkage between 17 and 30% for this next quarter, and a decline of 2.2%. So now what we're seeing in terms of manufacturing and materials, standards seem to be readily available. We are monitoring, the standard lumber, the everyday construction materials to build the project. We have been receiving notices. From some of the unique construction features, theater seating and elevator manufactured parts. We've been notified that their factories are shut down or experience extended deliveries. The elevator manufactured parts are coming from abroad, so we're seeing that. But the theater seating's local. Bleachers, fume hoods, HVAC equipment, we're also finding notices. Dow, if you're looking at adding a rider to all of their bids, basically a notice of potential delays for the materials. Additionally, we're a Southern California builder. A lot of our structural steel fabrication is into Mexico. If anyone's reading the news now, Mexico is another hot spot. So we're seeing slowdowns and extended passage through the border with our structural steel. They're checking to make sure that they're disinfecting the materials before they're bringing it out. And then pretty much anything that's coming from abroad, you're going to experience some delays or just a potential shutdown until they get clearance from their regulatory agencies. Additionally, and this is just recent, we have materials ready to be shipped and our factories can't get truck drivers. And that's most recent, just last few days. The truck drivers are maxed out delivering food and grocery stuff, and just seems to be that the standard commercial truck drivers are booked up or we're running short. In commercial, subcontractors seeing a slowdown as well as the general. And Ty had touched on this earlier. We're seeing a lot of labor becoming available. We're seeing a lot of new contractors wanting to bid educational work. Bidding educational work is all of the different requirements, DIR, pre-qualifications, depending on your delivery methods that you've selected for your work, skilled and trained workforce. And then additionally on all of your work, you have DSA mandated documents for both your general contractors as well as if you're going multiple prime contractors. A lot of these commercial guys are not experienced in filling out those forms or understanding what the requirement is. They're used to doing the commercial, call for an inspection, a day or two later, the inspector comes, signs the card, that sort of thing. So they're not understanding requirements, deferred submittals, things like that. Additionally, every district has a different requirement in terms of insurances, bonding, standard insurance. If it's an owner-controlled insurance program, you need to make sure that, and we're reaching out to these. Do you understand this is the requirement? These are the forms you need to fill out. Certified payroll is a whole different ballgame with these guys. We utilize LCP Tracker, and our payroll technicians are crash courses to these new contractors. And then specifically just the individual employees that are looking for work. In this environment we're at, it's just difficult getting the employment screening and interviewing taken care of. We mandate employment drug screening as well as background checks. We've become almost a full service contractor in that we're setting up appointments for our people so they can go in and get their background check, go in and get their screening, and setting them up so where we're being effective and efficient and not other resources tracking this down. But as you're moving forward, understand as a district, this new labor influx and new contractor influx, probably, and here's the challenge, probably are going to need to be doing requirements, your bonding, your insurance, your prevailing wage and certified payrolls. And in this new environment, you're going to be struggling because of, social distancing and minimizing large groups of people. So I'd lean on your construction managers and program managers to come up with some opportunities and ideas to reach out to these companies that are coming free to our market. So moving ahead, historically, recoveries have taken 30 months to regain previous peaks. The fortunate rates, as well as government funds being released to repair and help fuel the recovery. Additionally, we're seeing material costs, particularly petroleum, at record lows, recession and moving forward in the recovery. So I ran off some numbers from last August. Current costing, we're seeing it's actually stabilized from last year. They're about the same. We were experiencing 1.5 to 1%. It appears to be pretty much flat from last year. So that's some of the good things. As we're seeing labor come back into the market, I'm anticipating it continuing to stabilize some of the larger contractors that were maxed out in terms of their management and labor teams to do work. I see them reaching out and increasing their employee groupings and giving them some additional capacity. And I see the potential for some extremely good pricing summer months as the recovery begins to catch steam. There'll still be significant market labor and subcontractor participation. Usually this time of the year, everyone's booked up and cannot take it. Seeing an opportunity that there's some ability, if you can train the new contractors coming into the market, you can train them up and tackle some more work that normally you'd be passing on or increasing your margins to take the risk.
So Matt,
additionally, in moving forward in the environment of our construction projects, you're going to see additional social distancing, cleaning and disinfection protocols are going to be an everyday occurrence, and be part of our safety programs. Remote meetings are working, and the contractors that have the technology are going to continue to use those. Additionally, districts and contractors that have embraced web-based document controls are going to be ahead of the game as moving forward to where you can continue to be effective and get your work done and still meet the requirements of your social distancing. Job walk and bid opening protocols, everywhere from social distancing and roll call to tables out front that the contractors sign separately and then wipe their pens down. You're going to continue to see and lean on your construction managers as well as your program managers as to how they're going to manage job walks and bid openings. So again, closing up, opportunities for the district. Communicate with your board. A lot of you have already been doing that, and as well as your board, but also with the public. Reach out to bond counsel with the interest rates as low as they are and federal monies flying out. There's opportunities there if your bond counsel can work with you. That'd be the one to talk to. Great opportunities for those that have the ability to leverage general obligation bonds and that sort of thing. And again, web-based document control systems is a huge deal. Evaluate what you have and speak with your program manager. Not only are contractors were struggling with labor, districts were too. Evaluate your staffing needs. There's good people out there looking for work that have backgrounds. I just read out of the oil markets were let go last month. In the previous recession, that affected housing and construction, all of our workers were flying to the oil fields to do the work. We may be seeing some of that come back to our market and our industry. So just bear that in mind and evaluate what you've got, and just understand there's a lot of people out there. If you are seeing a shortage in labor, you might want to take advantage of the situation. And see where we're at. And again, petroleum products, record low prices. We're anticipating real favorable pricing in these products. I don't know if anyone saw the news last night, but there's about 24 tankers just anchored outside of Port of LA, full of oil. They got nowhere to put it. So just anticipate that and plan. If you've got long-term contract, I would start thinking about that. If you've got some roofing products or projects that are on the books, you may want to look at that as to when you're going to release those for bids. And then again, future guidance on space requirements, path of travel, and food service logistics. We can anticipate more of that coming from the governor and the state architect as we're moving forward into our new normal. And as always, be ready to pivot and reset priorities. So, and with that, any questions? And I'll let Nick take it from there.
Tom Duffy, can you hear me? Matt? Matt?
Well, it seems like we lost Matt. He's coming back.
There you go. All right, Nick, it's all yours.
All right. I hope everybody's doing well and staying healthy and safe out there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about people and material availability and or challenges we may see throughout K through 12 projects. So people want to work. They want to feel safe, and now more than ever, Matt talked a little bit about this, but trades are seeing an upswell in applications for employment as well as apprenticeship programs. So we have a fair amount of out-of-work adults that are seeing construction is essential and looking to move into that space, as well as youth, right? Newly graduated, not being able to, or in their senior year, weren't really set in stone on what their plan is, and now they're seeing how viable construction is as it's an essential trade. So how do those things impact your project? Labor is available, willing to work. Companies are creating a health and safety plan, all the trades, all the construction managers, onward to all the districts. We're increasing labor for the higher demand of summer work as we typically would, but it's been delayed. We are trying to create a new onboarding and training process. How can we that we can manage safely through social distancing and things like drug testing and live scan, background checks. Adding into that the safety protocols. How do we train? Adding into that the safety protocols. How do we train them and bring in all these new people and teach them the right way of doing things or the safe way of doing things? Production delays on construction projects are typically caused by a couple of things. Social distancing. Of course, we have to work a little slower as we're staying away from each other. Sterilizing tools and equipment between uses. Simple things like a saw as you're cutting wood or a logic. You need to sterilize and keep things clean or find the best way to be safe, so that process is slowing things down. We're seeing quarantine of materials before they're installed, meaning the delivery driver is going to drop them off at a project and they need to sit there for a little bit. Slows things down, especially if you have a time crunch that you're looking at. The transportation of materials and equipment has slowed down as well. Mostly because of the sterilization process or single access into a job site, things of that nature. Job site check-in process is much slower. Everybody's got to fill out a form or check the box. Are they safe? Are they in contact with anybody who's been sick? Some projects are checking temperatures. So that check-in process is slowing down things. Job site office meetings have essentially been canceled. They're finding a new way to manage those. In our office, and we're seeing through other trades, is the project executives or managers of companies are limiting interaction with projects, meaning you're not getting that response as quick as you need it. The good news, tradesmen are resilient. They're always adapting of what's going on and what's happening around them. And construction as a whole has many strict safety standards, and they're always finding a way to tighten those up. So it's not uncommon for people working on these projects, boots on the ground, to some sort of safety protocol. Touching on materials, your common everyday items are available. Matt talked a little bit about this. Majority of the manufacturing are working at 100% capacity to fulfill orders. Orders are running to fulfill orders. Orders are running. Other manufacturers are running at 50%. Some factories are closed. I made a bunch of phone calls as I prepared this, and things hadn't changed. There were only 2 factories in our industry that were changed. There were only 2 factories in our industry that were closed and already preparing to reopen. So we're not seeing a huge impact. As long as we don't see any outbreaks within those factories, materials should be readily available. That said, some specialty items, HVAC units, lead time items that are slow to assemble due to imported components. If you're dealing with anything that's an import, as Matt talked about, it's definitely going to be slower. Items manufactured overseas, he talked about elevators and bleachers and things of that nature. Talking with wholesalers, materials on the shelves, 90 to 120 days out. We could possibly see some delays depending on inventory levels. Talking about escalation, it's gonna, in my opinion, and as Matt showed, it's gonna show we will see a decrease in escalation. We will see more available companies ready to work, more people ready to work. From a material standpoint, we're not seeing any increases at this time. In fact, we might see some reduces because of the oil availability of oils. Long term, there could be some price gouging if they see that people just get greedy and see that they have what people need. But for the most part, I don't think that we're going to see any long-term gouging. I think we'll see the opposite, price increasing. Overall, no real concerns for material. Solutions. Be proactive. Communicate with your subcontractors and owners early and often. Create bullet points on meeting minutes, performance meetings. Revisit labor and materials weekly. It's really important as this situation is so fluid that we just constantly pay attention to it. Don't wait for the impacts or delays to incur. So again, be proactive, engage with them early and often. Different delivery methods will create different challenges, and we can dive into that a little bit if you like. I don't have much more than that here, other than just be prepared, be proactive, ask for early submittals, require material logs and manage them weekly. Be flexible on products, accept the equivalent or equal product. If something's not coming through, you need to understand why, and that way an or equal could be used effectively. technologically advanced companies will provide or will pivot faster and more effectively. Embrace the technology. Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams, PlanGrid, Procore, Bluebeam Studio, Textura. Those are softwares that a lot of people use on a regular basis, and they seem pretty simple. But being able to embrace their capacity, what they're able to do, is going to help a lot of companies. And this might seem a little ridiculous, but email. Some companies just need to embrace email, and people need to make that step. So more good news. K through 12 builders are typically used to a 60-day summer. They're used to working under extreme pressure. We will be stronger in the end, and we will become more efficient. That's it. That's all I got. Anybody have any questions?
Nick, it's Tom Duffy. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I was trying to ask Matt this question. This question. What I was taking away from what he said and what you've said is that we have more capacity in the workforce. Prices have stabilized, and we have more time to be. Prices have stabilized, and we have more time to be able to get jobs done for schools. Is that accurate? You're nodding.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. As long as we can onboard and teach them safely, and then the silos that they run in. Are we looking for specific tradespeople, or do we have the management capacity to manage the project? But if we can get them onboarded and trained correctly, then we should not have.
And that was underscoring training as well. How much additional time does that mean for a subcontractor?
Well, there's a couple different caveats to that. Are we looking for skilled and trained? Because that can take years. Are we looking for additional hands who can do little tasks? Typically, we can do that with a mentor or a shadowing process. A mentor or a shadowing process. Just depends on how deep we want to get into those, and then you want to get into labor laws of apprentice ratios and so on and so forth. Management in the office, specialty contractors, typically it's a skill set that comes over time. People to help the smaller tasks, managing the process a little more efficiently, or trying to be mindful. If we can find the right people, we can be successful.
And just following up on that, and I really appreciate you getting into detail. So are you seeing changes in what districts are expecting in terms of construction delivery? So instead of lease back, instead of design build, are you seeing more hard bid, more multi-prime? What are you seeing?
As an industry as a whole, we are starting to see more lease-back projects on the street, or GC type projects, than we are CM multi-prime. I think it's too soon to say what we're seeing as a whole as an industry right now. I wouldn't be able to comment on right now. I wouldn't be able to comment on that within COVID. The value in a GC or a lease-back type opportunity or delivery is you typically get that best value selection where you can have you can pick a team, that best value selection where you can have you can pick a team or a series of contractors that can deliver a product based off their capabilities and their experiences. Meaning a CM multi-prime, you're going to get low bid for a lot of school districts to save some money. But you're also going to deal with companies that work off much smaller margins, which typically they'll get into maybe a less technologically advanced company and not able to pivot.
Thank you. The one last thing, Matt mentioned pre-qualification and other things that are not necessarily typically in the wheelhouse of those that are not involved with school construction. We saw this in the recession. We saw this in the recession, the prior slowdown in 2007, 8, and beyond. What was requested of labor at that time, labor being in Sacramento, was to use the pre-qual process to labor being in Sacramento, was to use the pre-qual process to basically screen out or vet subcontractors and contractors to keep those away from the schools market who didn't have that experience. Keep those away from the schools market who didn't have that experience. Are you seeing that working now?
I think that some people will try to come in at construction, maybe not on a construction management level, but if they can bid as a general contractor to work their way into a school district and try to hard bid a project, that you'll see some new companies work their way in, but it'll be much smaller projects. Unique with K through 12 is that if you don't have the experience, you're going to have a hard time to get pre-qualified for any type of project. So I think to answer your question directly, at this time, no, but I think that we will see a slew of companies attempt to move into the market.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
All right. So thank you, Nick and Matt and Don and Ty. That was wonderful. Lots of information, Ty. That was wonderful. Lots of information and just more and more that we're going to have here. And so as you can kind of see, again, if you've got a question, throw in that chat box and we'll do our best to get with everyone and get some answers to you for your questions there. So one of the things I did want to bring up yesterday, as you know, was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So I want to add one more thing. Don't forget, our school district people and even our non-school district people, don't forget to, in the case of schools, walk through your classrooms and make sure you unplug all your electronics. In most cases, we don't see school coming back, in our case, until August. So we're working hard because so many people left their classrooms intending to come back that we've got all kinds of devices, printers, computers, coffee makers, some mini fridges, some not mini fridges. So make sure those are cleaned out and unplugged. Don't forget to look in your ASB rooms. They've got many times refrigerators and freezers in there. Clean those out and unplug those. Put your pool covers on. Make sure you've got that. Turn up your temperature controls, not only to your classrooms, but maybe you lift that, especially on we're not having CIF classrooms, but maybe you lift that, especially on we're not having CIF for our pools. So let's turn those temperatures down on those so that we're not staying so heated on it. Also, don't forget your locker rooms, as I mentioned. It's amazing what they can hide in there. For us to unplug, it's amazing what they can hide in there for us to unplug. And the same for our non-school district people. Think about your offices that you left that no one's there right now. Do you go back and unplug your copiers and raise those temperatures on your refrigerators in there just so that you're saving some of our earth? So with that, let's see, we've got, I'm going to move this slide here maybe. So our next scheduled webinar is anticipating federal COVID-19 assistance, state budget challenges, and the economy of planning during the COVID-19 AM. And don't forget, this Friday, April 24th, we have the second part of our web shop. Planning for a healthy indoor air quality and energy savings, which focuses on some things I just mentioned, on the energy goals with legislation and targeting the 2030 goals. The web shop is free, so tune in and join us. It's free, so tune in and join us. We have speakers from the National Energy Management Institute and California Energy Commission will be part of that presentation. So updates will be given on Prop 39 project completion issues. That has been brought up, as we know, with some districts not being able to complete their projects. Cash, with some districts not being able to complete their projects. Cash, myself, and all the presenters on the webinar today, we want to extend our best wishes for continued good health to you and your family. Cash will continue to keep you informed through emails, webinars as we learn more. Please follow your recommended healthcare precautions. Please follow your recommended healthcare precautions for your individual county. As I say, I continue to be amazed and grateful at the resilience, dedication, and innovation of our school industry leaders across the country who are working tirelessly to meet the needs of students and communities during the coronavirus pandemic. We're feeding 3,000 more meals a week than we have students enrolled. That's the need out there, and part of that is some of our daycares that have stayed open that that are taking care of our first responders' children. So I think this truly showcases the absolute power of the public education industry. So here's to our frontline heroes of our medical and hospital staff, our first responders, our truckers, our grocery store employees, our construction, our maintenance guys out there, and of course our nutrition staff. All of you guys are really rock stars, and we appreciate
Thank you.
Full of gratitude.
Thank you.
I'm just so full of gratitude for all these people.
Thank you, Julie, for your leadership.
Well,
and thank you,
Tom.
Jeff.
So we're going to sign off here. And remember, most of all of our cash is here to help and be a resource to you in maintaining our sanity and continue to operate the coronavirus. Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Stay cash strong. See you later.